All right, folks, we have some Vancouver Canucks news to talk about today as just 3 days after Francesco Aquilini met with the media, introduced Stan Smyl as interim GM. They have now hired Jim Rutherford, but not as a GM, but as a president of hockey operations. So one thing that we were hoping for from this Canucks organization was more depth at the organizational level, right? Someone between the ownership level and the GM, someone who can, prevent ownership from maybe meddling in decisions, which has been something that has been accused of the Aquilinis in the past. So Jim Rutherford is a name that really makes sense from a president level. The initial thought was he might be the GM of the Canucks, which I wasn't a big fan of. Jim Rutherford, very, very experienced. He has been he was a GM for the Hartford Whalers back in the 90s into the Carolina Hurricanes, won a Stanley Cup with the Hurricanes, left the Hurricanes for the Pittsburgh Penguins in 2014, became their executive vice president of hockey operations there and their general manager in Pittsburgh for the last 7 or so years, basically at the same time as Jim Benning took over for the Canucks. And then as he was let go, or he resigned on January 27th, so about 11 months ago, when Ron Hextall took over, and he was just hired today by the Vancouver Canucks. Now, the initial rumor was that he could be the man for the GM position for the Canucks, which was met to a lot of disappointment by Canucks fans, right? It's a guy who's in his mid 70s, another sort of member of the old boys recycled GM club, a guy who doesn't seem to have been making such good decisions lately, right? He signed the Jack Johnson 5-year contract back in 2018. There was Brandon Tanev. He gave 6 years at $3.5 million. And the Pittsburgh Penguins started to fall off a little bit in the last couple of years, which, partly because of some of his decisions. There was the one that Canucks fans will know very well about, where the Canucks traded Eric Goodbranson to the Pittsburgh Penguins and received Tanner Pearson in return. And people were looking at that and be like, do we really want the guy who made the Pearson for Goodbranson trade on the other side of it? Because that seems like not a big upgrade for the Vancouver Canucks. However, as a president, this makes a lot of sense. He's going to be the interim GM, and he's going to be basically the man behind the search for the new general manager of the Canucks. So still lots of names floating around out there. I might do a video later on about some of those names, so stay tuned for that. But he's a guy who's been in the industry forever, right? We're talking 30 years as a general manager, nearly. If you include his days in the Ontario Hockey League, then more than 30 years as a general manager. He does seem to be fairly analytics focused, which is kind of nice to hear from an older GM. And he should be a guy who won't take any crap from ownership, in theory, right? He's going to be a guy who is the one who directly reports to the owner. The GM reports to him. He reports to Francesco Aquilini, and he can, him and the GM can work on a vision, and he can say, hey, you let the GM do his thing, you pay the bills, etc. And he's got that cachet to pull something like that off. So for a president's role, he really seems like a guy who makes a lot of sense, right? 30 years in the industry, has a ton of contacts, has had teams that have succeeded in the past, multiple time Stanley Cup winner. He's a Hall of Fame builder. And it just adds more clout to this organization, right? We've gone from a first-time GM who had basically no cachet around the league. Teams thought they could walk all over him in Jim Benning, with no president, a first-time head coach in Travis Green. And I mean, we saw the Forbes valuations come out yesterday. The Canucks are the lowest valuation increase over the past bunch of years when it comes to NHL team values. So when they go out, they have replaced Travis Green with Bruce Boudreau, which has been off to an excellent start. The Canucks are 2-0. They go in and they replace Jim Benning with this focus of, we're going to take our time, we're going to find the right GM, but we're going to put in this president at the top level who knows what he's doing. He has this experience. He knows everyone around the league. And it really starts to feel like the Canucks are really taking strides in the right direction, and pretty quickly, right? You go from how bleak things felt on Saturday night. We are talking 6 days ago, and how bleak things felt, a jersey being thrown onto the ice, the team putting out an abysmal performance against the Pittsburgh Penguins, and it really feeling like there was no way out of this because this is the team they have. This is just the way it is, to letting go of the coach, bring in a new coach who seems to have at least gotten some aggressiveness out of the players, some new life. We'll see if it continues, right? I'm not saying they're going to make the playoffs this year or anything like that, but the vibe around the team feels a lot different. And then to go out and to pick up a president, to not give him too much, to not give him the GM role, which might have been a little bit much for my liking, but to go and make him the president and sort of run the hockey operations, it really seems like a really good fit. It seems like a really good move to bring some legitimacy back to the organization. And hopefully he'll go out, he'll find a good GM. I'm hoping, maybe like a younger GM who has been an AGM with some other organizations. I know there's been a lot of talk around Chris McFarland, who is the AGM under Joe Sakic in Colorado. He has a lot of clout around him, or people like that, right? If they can go out and they can build this sort of forward-thinking, focused GM, and not just the GM, but whole-on management department, right? A GM and AGM, a group of people that are thinking forward, that can innovate and can put a good product out on the ice. It's starting to feel like the pieces are starting to come together. When the Canucks do announce a GM or when rumors start to fly, make sure you're subscribed here, and I will try to cover that. Hit the like button on this video, and while you're at it, let me know who you think the Canucks should hire as a GM in the comments down below. And do you like the Jim Rutherford signing? Because I'm or Jim Rutherford, I guess it is a signing. They signed him as the president. I want to know your guys' thoughts. Maybe we'll run a poll over on the community tab. So if you see that in your feed, you can vote yes or no on your thoughts on Jim Rutherford. Anyways, that's all I've got in this one. I will see you tomorrow night after the Canucks game. I think they play the Jets tomorrow night. And by the way, shout out Stan Smeel, the only undefeated Canucks GM in history, went 2-0 during his reign. Bravo, Stan Smeel. And I will talk to you in the next one.